Welcome to the Sovereign CEO podcast. Podcast number 21. I am Caleb Jones. This is Sovereign CEO. I show people just like you how to make a very decent location-independent income, move to a better country, or at least set up an international backup plan and do all those things for very little money, because you don't need a lot of money to do that, generally speaking. And I am back here in very hot Dubai. It is now May-ish, mid-May, and so the really hot season has begun. And unfortunately, this is the only time logistically we could make it work for me and Pink Firefly to move here. And so unfortunately, for this 1 year, we're going to be spending a decent amount of time here in Dubai during the hot summer months of June, July, August, which are the only 3 months a year you don't want to be in Dubai. Going forward, after this year, we will not be here during those 3 months because it sucks here. And it's just starting to suck. Right now, it's still okay. We just went for a nice walk, but it's starting to get hot here. In terms of moving out of the country, in this podcast, I'm going to address one of the biggest questions I received from you guys. This is the most common question I received. I've seen this on our Facebook group. I've seen this on our YouTube channel. I've seen this in my email. I've seen this question all over the place. So finally, I get to address this question. And the question is this. Caleb, yes, I need to move out of my country. It's a collapsing Western country. It fucking sucks. High taxes. I hate it here. I need to get the fuck out. Yes. However, I do not have an Alpha 2.0 business yet. I do not have location independent income yet. And Caleb, you often say, get the fuck out now, but you also say you need location independent income to leave. So if I don't have my location independent income, if I don't have my location independent business, do I go ahead and leave and then figure it out later? Or do you recommend, Caleb, that I stay in my collapsing, shitty, high-tax, authoritarian, angry Western country and get my location-dependent income up and running first and then move? What do I do? So here's the problem. There is no simple yes or no or A or B answer to that question. It depends on many factors. And I've said this before when guys ask this question. I say, I really can't answer that question without knowing a lot more about your scenario. It depends on many, many factors. And so in this podcast, I'm going to give you all the factors and all the data points that you can look at to help you make this decision. The answer is not yes. The answer is not no. The answer is it depends on the scenario. Now, I will just to get this out of the way, to get my emotions out of the way, emotionally, somewhat irrationally, my answer is get the fuck out. There are certain countries I think you should leave right now, but that's my emotional opinion. I'm not giving you objective analysis or objective advice when I say that. That's about to come in a minute. So I'm getting my emotions out of the way first for you, just to get those out of the way, just to be on record about them. And then I'll get into the objective rationalities where you actually look at data points. But in terms of my irrational feelings, there are certain countries, in my opinion, where you need to get the fuck out right the fuck now. I don't care if you have location-dependent income or not. Well, Caleb, what countries would those be? Well, off the top of my head, this is not an all-inclusive list, but these are some of them. Number one, top of the list right now, United States. I think you should get the fuck out of the U.S. right now. Canada. Get the fuck out of Canada right now if you can. You Canadians basically have Nazi Germany for a government now. You're not allowed to leave your own country without a jab. Oh, fuck me. So if you can, leave Canada. Australia, get the fuck out of Australia. Maybe even New Zealand. I'm not as hardcore about New Zealand as Australia, but certainly Australia, get the fuck out. Germany, get the fuck out of Germany. What the hell are you doing in Germany? God damn, tip of the spear for European collapse. Get out. UK, I don't know. Maybe UK's going down fast, but I don't know if you need to get out now. So that's my emotional answer. Just to put that over in the corner, just to get that off my chest and get out of the way. So now let's get into the facts and the objective realities in terms of data points that you should evaluate in terms of making this decision. These are in no particular order. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a list of things in no particular order. These don't have more weight than others. It really depends on your circumstances. Number one, how old are you? So, as I've said many times before, the younger you are, the more flexible your lifestyle tends to be. So, here's an example. If you're 22 years old or 23 years old and you file bankruptcy, that's bad. Okay, that's bad. But frankly, it's off your record in 7 years. So by the time you're 30, you're okay again. And 30 is still pretty young. In other words, you haven't destroyed your life if you file bankruptcy because you're 22. Now, if you're 42 and you file bankruptcy, you're fucked. Good luck, pal. Boy, I wouldn't want to be you. Same thing with getting divorced. If you go through a horrible divorce and you're 28, that's really bad. It's going to seriously damage your life. It's a serious problem. I've talked about this over my Alpha Male 2.0 content. But you're 28. You can recover. You can get back to, square one pretty quickly. I got divorced when I was 35, youngish, and I recovered pretty quickly because I was still youngish. You get divorced when you're like 53? Oh my God, that's really bad. I have seen men basically become suicidal. I've talked about men who I've sit in their offices and they burst out crying because they're in their 40s, 50s, God forbid 60s, and they go through a divorce. It destroys their life. They never recover. My dad went through a divorce with my mom in his 70s, 80s. He has never recovered. He probably never will recover. So my point is, if you're very young, if you're in your early 20s and you live in a horrible Western country, not quite as bad as if you're my age, you're 50, and you live in a horrible Western country. Much worse, the older you get. In other words, the older you are, the worse effect it's going to have on your life by staying in these collapsing countries. Generally speaking, yes, there are exceptions. So if you're in your early 20s, you're more flexible. You can leave or you can stay. And in both cases, you're going to have more maneuverability and it'll be better off. In other words, it's harder to make a wrong choice if you're a young dude. If you're, 23, 25, 27, anywhere pretty much in your 20s, really. And again, I consider a younger man age 34 and under. So there you go. So that's the first factor. Second factor is, how bad is it in your current country? So if I have two guys asking me this question, Caleb, should I leave? I don't have location dependent income. And one guy lives in Portugal and the other guy lives in Canada. I'm going to tell the guy in Canada, bro, get the fuck out. Canada is really bad and getting worse every month. Get the fuck out. Now, when I say that, if you live in Portugal, no. I wouldn't live in Portugal, but I know guys who live in Portugal and can make it work because, yes, it's technically collapsing because it's technically Western Europe, but it already collapsed a very long time ago. And as I've talked about, the European countries who are much lower on the economic totem pole are going to feel it much less when Europe goes under. So am I going to freak out if you're in Portugal? Not really. Not really, no. But if you're in Australia, United States, Germany, Canada, so you need to make a determination as to how bad your Western country is. There are lots of Western countries. Many of them are collapsing right now. Some of them have de facto already collapsed. In my opinion, the United States collapsed in 2008. You can make the argument. We just haven't felt it yet. But there are some other countries, Western countries, that are not as bad. Okay? So that's another data point you need to use. How bad is it in your country? Some countries are bad. Some countries are moderately bad. Okay? That's another factor you could use. The third one, and this is an important one. Maybe this is the biggest one. I said they're not weighted, but maybe this is the most important one. How unhappy are you in your current Western country? I relate to this very well. I was extremely unhappy living in the United States for about 6 or 7 different reasons. It wasn't just, these left-wingers who say, if Donald Trump gets elected, I'm going to leave the country. No, it wasn't about that. It wasn't just political reasons. Matter of fact, my political reasons were probably on my top 6 reasons, probably number 6 was one of the least important ones. There were many, many reasons, and I've written articles about this. I've talked about this on my YouTube channel. I'm not going to go through those reasons again. But there were many, many reasons why I was very unhappy living in the United States. If you've been following my YouTube channel, you know that I have been in the U.S., in the Portland, Seattle area for the past 2.5 months, and I was not miserable, because I'm not a miserable person. I'm a happy guy, but I felt so awful being in that environment. Oh, I couldn't wait to leave. I'm so happy to be back in Dubai. I'm so happy to be back in Dubai. You can't. And right now, my Dubai life is a mess. I'm going between 2 apartments. We're living out of boxes right now. We're looking for a home. We haven't found it yet. It's kind of a mess right now in Dubai, but I don't care. I'm so happy not being in the United States. Some of you are a little more neutral about it emotionally. Some of you are like, yeah, my country sucks. This is terrible, but I don't hate it. I mean, I could wait another 2 or 3 years. I'm okay. It's fine. Yes, Caleb is right. And yes, I got to get the fuck out. And yes, these taxes are ridiculous. And these voters are insane and the country's going down and blah, blah, blah. But I don't hate it, or I don't hate it yet. Okay, fine. So that's another factor. How unhappy are you in your current country? If you're super fucking unhappy, then maybe you move. You move and you figure out your location dependent income once you get to the new country. Okay? Or you get a job in the new country. Next factor. How much money do you have in savings? In spendable liquid cash that you are willing to spend. A lot of you are poor motherfuckers and you have no money. Okay, well, if you have no money, then making a move to a new country when you have no income there and no location-dependent income obviously is more scary and more difficult and a little more risky. I don't know if it would stop me. I'm a risk taker, but that may be a deal for you. Maybe a deal breaker for you. Maybe. Up to you. Some of you guys, a lot of you guys, have spoken to many of you, have 6 months of savings, a year of savings, 2-3 years of savings, or some of you older guys don't necessarily have savings, but you have assets. You have investments that you wouldn't mind pulling out if you needed to. So if you've got 2-3 years of savings or lots of net assets or a decent net worth, sure, go ahead and move. And worst case, you dig into your savings a little bit, which sucks. I don't like it. There have been times in life I've had to do that. But worst case, you do that while you figure out either a job in the new country, a temporary job, or a temporary business in the new country, or setting up your Alpha 2.0 business, or what have you. So if you have a lot of money in savings, again, savings creates freedom. Guys who have lots of liquid savings are more free than guys who have literally no money, because guys who have literally no money are freaking out every month, right? Right. That's why I teach in terms of the Alpha 2.0 financial model. You have 6 to 12 months of expenses after taxes somewhere in liquid savings, either in a savings account or cash in a safe or a money market account or something equivalent to that. That way you have freedom, and if there's problems that come along, you're okay. You've got plenty of time to figure it out. I have 8 months of savings in terms of expenses in liquid funds in various places in the world. So if that means if all my income vanished tomorrow, I'd have 8 months to figure it out. Not bad. So 6 to 12 is what you want. But again, you have no savings, maybe you should stay. Next factor is, how would you earn the money in the new country to pay your bills, assuming you had no savings or you didn't want to touch your savings? So are you going to move to your new country and set up your Alpha 2.0 business, knowing it might take a year before you start getting regular, spendable cash income every month to pay your bills? Are you going to do that? Are you going to get a bullshit job, corporate job, or a job in the new country just temporarily to pay your bills and then start your business on the side? Are you going to do that? If you want to do that, if that's your plan, what are the odds you can get a job in the new country that will actually pay your bills? So I'm in Dubai. If you play it right, you could get a decent job over here and pay 0 taxes. Not bad. But if you move to Paraguay, good luck finding a high-paying job in Paraguay, especially if you're a Westerner. You're going to be fucked. So how are you going to earn money once you go to your new location? You need to map that out and have a thorough understanding of what your plan is, and then determine whether or not that is likely to occur. Which means, if you kind of map this out a little bit, if you're going to go to a cheap country or a lower end country like Colombia, Paraguay, Cambodia, something like that, getting a job probably isn't an option unless you want to teach English. I know that's a big thing for a lot of guys. You could be an English teacher and they pay your bills and shit. Okay. But even that would be difficult in places like Paraguay, places that have lower end infrastructure. Yeah, you could do that in Southeast Asia, but not in Paraguay. I mean, I guess you could, but how much money would you make? I don't know, probably not very much. So anyway, that's the last factor. So you factor out how you're going to earn income in the new country, and is it likely that will occur? Again, and there's an order to this. You have to know how much savings you have, and that'll kind of direct you as to what you're going to do or not do, or what you're able to do, right? So certainly if you have a lot of money in savings, you could go ahead and get the fuck out of your collapsing Western country now. Go ahead and live off your savings for a while. Live very, very, very cheaply, especially if you're going to go to a place like Colombia, Paraguay, Thailand, outside of Bangkok, that is. Very cheaply, live very, very, very cheap so you're not sucking a lot of money out of your savings and just start cranking that Alpha 2.0 business. Fine. Now, obviously, you have no savings. That's not going to be an option. You'll need some income once you get out there. Cool, cool. Or another option, what you could do, a little more difficult these days, is you could go ahead and get a location-independent job in your current collapsing Western country that is 100% location-dependent, where they never need you to come in for a meeting ever in real life, because a lot of jobs are partially location-dependent. Nail down that job and then move. You could do that, but that's harder, okay? And that would depend on how bad your country is, how unhappy you are. So all these factors tie together. Make sense? Like I said, as you can now see, there is no definitive answer to this. You need to factor in those 5 things, and then that will give you your answer. Now, if you have other questions on this, or if you think there are topics related to this that I did not discuss in this podcast, let me know. I am happy to do a follow-up podcast to this because, again, I know this is a big question for a lot of you guys. I see this question all the time. I want to make sure I completely address this question. So if there's unanswered questions in terms of this question, please do let me know, and I'm happy to do a follow-up on this. I will see you next week. Have fun. Bye.